Good day, everyone, and welcome to the Mac Show. Today, we are going to be talking about the Black Friday sales that had happened last week, and now the numbers have surfaced, and it's pretty telling, once again, that for the 85% of the casuals out there, price will always be king. It's not about console wars. It's not about power. It's not about who offers the best service or who has the best games. It has to do with the price, and it's easily the PlayStation 5 being the cheapest on Black Friday was the biggest seller by a huge margin. Not even a small margin, a huge margin. Let me give you the numbers right now. So, if you want to look at in UK, for example, 62% of all sales of consoles during the Black Friday was the PlayStation 5. Coming in at number 2 was the Switch 2 at 23%, Xbox at 10%, and the Switch 1, if you can believe that, at 5%. But once again, what did that have to do with? The price. PlayStation had slashed their prices. I had recommended to people, I said, listen, even if you don't have a PlayStation or have no intention of getting one in the near future, now would actually be the time to get one, and that was during that sale. Well, they sold out over here. I don't know how everything else went, but judging by these numbers, it probably did. The United States is another one. United States, 47% of all sales were PlayStation 5. Nintendo Switch 2 ranked at second with 24%, and the next Playground, we're going to get into that subject in just a moment. The next Playground coming in third at 14%. From what I understand, is that Xbox had not even reached into the top 5, actually almost being outsold by Meta, if you could believe that. Very, very poor in terms of hardware sales. However, if you look at it, and we're not talking about us, we're not talking about the people watching this video, the 15% hardcore, the people that are invested in this industry. We're not talking about us. And that's something that I've always tried to explain to people, and I keep getting pushback from that 15%. And I said, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the 85% of the people who don't watch these shows, who don't go to podcasts, who don't know anything that's going on. They're going to walk in the store and find the cheapest price. Yes, I'm well aware that Sony is a global brand and it holds the mind share in the community and around the world that, PlayStation. And so they automatically go there. That has a lot to do not only with the product, but it has a hell of a lot to do with their marketing. And that's why marketing is so incredibly important. That being said, when a mom or a dad or Johnny Sixpack or anybody's going to buy something for their nephew or for their own kids, and it's, I need to get something for my kids for Christmas. They're going to walk in the store. Okay, what do you got? Well, you got an Xbox here, you got a Switch 2 here, and you've got a PS5 there. By the way, the PS5 is 30% off. Give me that. That's how it works. There's nothing else to it. There's a little bit of nuance. I'll give you that. There's a little bit of nuance. For example, what do the kids' friends have? Oh, Dad, all my friends have a PS5, or all my friends have an Xbox, or all my friends have a Switch. I want what they have. That is certainly a factor, but it's not the dominating factor. It's just a small percentage. But on top of that, what is it? Number one is still going to be price for the 85% of the casuals out there. Let me give you another example. What was the worst selling console? The Xbox across the planet. What was the most expensive console? The Xbox. It's pretty simple. I understand that Xbox certainly does not have the same mind share that Sony and Nintendo have. We all understand that. We all know that. And that's not a slight against the product. It's just the way it is. But it was also the most expensive product during Black Friday and didn't sell. I want to bring up a little bit the next Playground. The next Playground. Let me tell you something, folks. I've been gaming for decades and decades and decades. I do YouTube 7 days a week. I game 7 days a week. I didn't even know this product existed until yesterday. I had no idea that this thing existed. I found out yesterday. I didn't even know that this thing has been out for 2 years. And it's by far, I'm not going to put it in the top 3 because it's not part of the big 3, so to speak. It's, kind of an outlier. However, it's the cheapest, right? And you would say, well, if it was the cheapest by your logic, Mag, it should actually be higher in the list. I would tend to agree with you. However, I don't think that it hits there because people didn't even know about this product. I think that it's certainly not as probably, nobody's talking about it, not very many people. Some people have pointed out to me that, it's on TikTok. There's a lot of movement and attention going to TikTok with it. A lot of kids are putting it on their wish list. But once again, we're talking about little kids. My understanding is that the target market is like a below 10-year-old child, right? Yes, I've seen adults play it. I've watched the videos and everything else now that I discovered what this product is. And I get all that, but the target market is still for like a 10-year-old and under. Anything above that, they're probably going to want to be playing Fortnite on a console or anything like that. So that being the case, I can't put it in there with the top 3. So therefore, by that logic, we have to kind of remove it out of there because it really isn't part of that pantheon of consoles that we have now. However, like I said, once again, it all comes down to the price. This is actually going to be very indicative for the future of the consoles. For example, with Project Magnus from Xbox and the PlayStation 6. If we've heard that the PlayStation 6 is actually going to be cheaper than the Xbox and maybe not even as powerful, then that will certainly sell a lot more based on that alone outside of the hardcore. I know the hardcore is willing to go out there and spend $1,000 on a handheld like the ROG Xbox Ally X, but that's not going to be anywhere close to the majority of the people of the world, as we saw by these Black Friday sales that just happened. This is going to be a serious problem for Xbox. I mean, maybe Xbox doesn't care about how much hardware they sell as long as they have people in the ecosystem. That's really what they care about more than anything. Fine, great. But they're going to continuously be put in these different reports all the time, and it's going to look bad. It's about the public image at that point. That is what is so important to all these companies when it comes to their product. People will not have faith in your product if you're constantly being put on these lists and shown as last place. You will be nullified at that point. People are saying, well, this is not, why would I even bother with that? And that's what ends up happening. Because you get put into these comparisons, you look bad. And so if you look at a Project Magnus, let's say, for example, what I heard is the target is going to be between $899 and $1199 US dollars for the new console, whereas the PlayStation 6 could be anywhere between $600 and $700. I mean, this is all just speculation, but it'll certainly be cheaper from what we understand and what we've seen so far and what they have sort of alluded to. That being the case, you're going to get put in those categories once again. It's going to be the Switch 2 being the biggest seller, and then the PlayStation 6, and then right in the dumpsters is going to be the Xbox Project Magnus, and no fault of its own. No fault of its own. No one's saying anything about no one's saying the product is bad or Xbox is bad. I'm not saying that, and I never would. But by putting those comparisons in there, you're going to look bad. And when you look bad, the 85% are going to ignore you, on top of the fact that you're obviously going to outprice a lot of people, especially the common people, not the hardcore gamers, the common folk out there who want to get their kids into gaming or their kids ask for something for Christmas. They're not going to get it at that price. So therefore, this is what we end up with. So once again, we have to just bend the knee to the fact that the 85% are all about the price. Anyways, have yourself a wonderful day. Stay magnificent. Go Buffalo. We'll talk to y'all real soon. Bye now.